Welcome to the OFM podcast where metabolic health matters. And today's guest in for a conversation is actually a guy I've become good friends with because we have a lot of similarities, which we'll talk about. And yeah, he kind of looks like a wild man like me. He's a wild man with hair. I'm the wild man without hair.
You should see her when I wake up.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever brushed my hair. I haven't brushed my hair probably in the last 20 years.
Oh, wow. He's a wild man. He's a great guy. Jesse Haynes. And we're going to have a conversation today. Jesse, welcome.
Thank you, Peter, for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm not going to have you. Kira's going to have you. She can have you. And she can have you.
She's already got me.
She got you. Yeah. Like they say, for better or for worse.
That's right.
That's right. So our conversation today is centered around Jesse's journey, not just his OFM journey, but his journey into ultras and stuff like that. And Jesse is a working guy. He's got a blue collar. It's sort of a blue-white collar job, wouldn't you call it, Jesse? Because you get to do everything from manage people, manage projects to...
Let's call it, yes, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. On top of that, we can call it redneck, right? Because the rednecks,
operating engineers, and like I said, working.
I got every color of the collar. Let's call it that. I manage the crew. I don't do so much with project management, meaning the money side of it. I let somebody else handle that. But I pretty much take care of the job from start to finish with all the aspects of the work involved, from figuring out what to do for the day to what's going to make the project successful from start to end.
And a lot of your jobs are starting with a piece of ground, correct? And then doing the earth moving, the underground, the paving, gutters, the site work for the building, right? That's sort of your area of specialty?
Sure, I can clean it up just a little. We actually do demo also. So a lot of the sites that we get they already have buildings, or there's already something that's been constructed there. Rarely do we get a job that's just straight groundwork, because most of the work's in San Diego and property's limited there as far as open space. So most of the projects are demolition of existing structures and then transitioning that structure into new groundwork. And yeah, our company does. I concentrate mainly on the grading portion. So rip the building down, get rid of it, set up the grades for what the new project is supposed to be, and get it all set to rough grade. Concrete company comes in, moves in, does their work. Steel guys put their steel up. And during that process, our underground team, which I work in close proximity to them because I understand and have done the underground portions. And by underground, I mean your water, we don't do the electricity, but we do water, sewer, storm drain, gas. So we'll put all that in, and I understand enough to know when our team of underground should come in to do that, and when we can work in close proximity to each other to make the job.
So you're coordinating all.
Yeah. I'm personally coordinating all that. Yeah, as well as managing. There's been sometimes some projects that I've had. It was a crazy time, and it's not all the time, but I've had up to 50 different employees on the site at once. So that's just the parameter of how far an extent, how many people I'm managing on a daily basis. But that's not all the time. Mainly the crews are anywhere from 10 to 15, something like that.
Yeah. And that's in case people don't realize when you're doing this kind of level of construction, because I actually did something similar to Jesse in a former life. When you're capable, you end up becoming the foreman, the job manager, the operator, the grade setter, and directing people and traffic. I was doing traffic control. Oh God.
I never asked to be a foreman.
I know.
It just ended up happening just because of my nature. I don't really, and you can ask my wife about this. I see things and I can't allow it to happen like that. So I have to say something, and I don't like wasteful time or wasting money on things. And I like to keep the project moving in a successful manner. And that takes a lot to do that. It's not just the task for the day. It's looking ahead for the next week. It's trying to manage what how many people I need for the next day, because we switch out our crews. We don't have the same crew every single day. It's all a matter of what's needed for that next day.
A friend of mine said to me once, it's the most unprofessional profession there is, because it can get kind of tough working with people, because a lot of people don't realize that you have to look ahead and work together. And then it's like you said, Kira said about it, you're like a lion. You come in and take charge so that people can't be just thinking about their bubble. Because when you get people like on a multi-faceted job like you are, you know, a lot of times these guys are thinking for themselves, and that's going to create the bottleneck where it's
Exactly.
it's self-defeating for them. But the problem is nobody wants to own the responsibility, so they blame everybody else.
That's it right there. Then nobody wants to
And
take responsibility for anything. And it's just, it's
yeah,
so tough to try to make sure that everybody's got something to do the entire day and the entire time. To the
yeah,
point where even if a machine breaks down, I don't just send that guy home. I figure out what else can I do with him? Or if they come to the end of what they had done and for some reason they have to stop, I figure out what needs to happen on an hourly basis.
It's interesting you say that, because when I was doing construction, I moved from earth moving to road grinding, asphalt milling, and we'd be doing these jobs, and you know, you'd have a buried manhole cover and you just run into that, and all of a sudden 30 pockets go, and you've got 7 dump trucks, your crew, your sweepers, everything, you know, sitting around. And I learned how to weld really well and really fast, and change teeth really well and really fast, because like you say, you know, all of a sudden you get people sitting around, and the money really adds up. If it's everybody's working, okay, it's good that everybody's making good money. Everybody should make good money. But boy, when something goes sideways and the clock's ticking, it gets ugly fast.
Yeah, for sure.
And then
Thousands of dollars. Yeah, that's surprising to me in construction. We're not the general contractor. We'll come in under whoever won the job, and they'll get every other trade to come
right,
in. And so we're not the general contractor. And it's amazing to me how much these general contractors that are in charge of the job don't really even know what needs to happen next. And I take a lot of that on my own shoulders to make sure that, because I want the job to go smooth, that I'll end up talking to the other subcontractors, like the electricians or the plumbers or the concrete guys, and I'll make sure that everybody's in tune with what's happening in the next couple days, so that we don't have to sit there and wait for them to get their stuff done.
yeah, if they got some other jobs they need to go catch up on, go do it, right? Yeah. So, and to a point, one of the things that just occurred to me that's really germane to this conversation is, and it's really about this conversation, is you're doing well. You just came off a second place finish at Leona Divide under some really gnarly hot conditions at the age of almost 50, and now you're 50.
I am 50. Yeah, I turned 50 in November. So
okay, so you were 50. At 50, you bagged a second place finish at Leona. How old was the guy who won it? I think he was young.
I think he was 30. I think he was 34. I'm not 100% sure. I know that I've raced against him before, unknowingly. I didn't know he was actually in this race. I never actually know who's in the race. I don't look too much at the entrance list and focus on it too much. But he's a solid racer, and
he's also 34.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not 50. And so the point I wanted to make here and have you talk a little bit about is the kind of work you do, because I've done it. It tends to take a huge toll on people from a health perspective.
In what aspect do you mean? Like lungs?
I mean, look at your colleagues that you're working with. The guys are out there doing the job that you're managing.
Yeah, they're not in physical shape to, I mean, the physical shape that they're
living
in
off of coffee, cigarettes, and Red Bull.
Oh, their diet is terrible. As a matter of fact, it's super interesting that with what I do and the way they see me eat, they think I'm just some health nut, but it's actually helped them because they see what I'm eating and they're asking about it. So I've gotten to have quite a few conversations about it, and there's a lot of guys that are turned their focus to more of a healthy
Well, I'd love to,
lifestyle eating wise. Let's
I'd
call it
love
that.
to help you with those guys because, like I said, the a lot of these classic male dominated work environments, and yeah, there's women coming into construction, there's women coming into flying, but like airline pilots were the same thing. They had the 8-hour bottle to throttle rule, so they drank when they were off, they smoked, they didn't eat very good, and they certainly didn't exercise. Operating engineers, the the labor union, the what do they call it? The pipe fitters union and the iron workers. I mean, these guys are really tough, hardworking guys. So they're physically active, but a lot of the job demands combined with the diet and the hours.
Oh yeah, they're drinking energy drinks, and definitely a bunch of them are smoking, and
Smoking, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all this stuff of nicotine, caffeine, energy drinks to kind of keep them going, and they tend to have a big burnout rate.
agreed.
So yeah, so, and you're kind of like a shining example, and that's great to hear that some of the guys you're working with are kind of like paying attention.
Yeah, it's really funny. There's a couple in my office. I don't ever go to the office. Rarely, let's put it that way. I don't say ever, because I go there at times. But there's a couple of them that actually have done a few races. So, and they're super interested in it. I just because I'm gone so much for doing 100-mile races during the summer. In summer months, I take off a number of different times, and gotten to the point where I actually share with the whole company the link that shows the race link that shows how you can track, and they're always very supportive of that. And so it's kind of cool to see that I'm kind of have an influence on some of the people in construction. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's kind of move on. Why don't you tell us start with your story, how you got into, what you start at the very beginning, like how you grew up briefly, just run through sort of quickly how you grew up, what you were doing, how you got out here to California, got into ultras.
You're probably going to regret asking that question because I'm going to refer back to my wife. She says I talk too much. So let's see how this goes.
You tell your wife, I could talk to her like a construction worker. Like, remember you got in trouble for saying something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I don't want to tell that story.
Shut the, you know what up, Kira.
I didn't tell her to shut up. I used a word that was not nice in the midst of a sentence. And she's like, I can't believe you said that. And I was like, I'm sorry. I brought the job site back. It was shortly after I got home.
She doesn't understand. It's like I was telling you, back in the day when I was grinding asphalt, it was like every other word that came out of my mouth started with the letter F, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah, it's not. So yeah, anyway, I'm actually off work right now. I'm back at the property and let's call it the location where I grew up, because we switched to different properties while I was growing up. But in Wisconsin, it's a small town. The name of the town is Phillips. It's in the center of the state, just an hour south of Lake Superior. So wintertime, super harsh conditions. I've seen minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 60 below zero. But it also gets 100, and I've seen it 120 here. So we have definitely the extremes. Made it through high school. As soon as I got out of high school, started working immediately for a cranberry company, and worked for the cranberry company for 12 years. And
what were you doing for them?
I was operating, but it's a farm. It's basically a farm. So you're cutting grass, knocking down weeds, putting Roundup on plants that we don't want in the cranberry fields. And I was digging ditches, making new cranberry beds. You have to put a crown on the bed so that all the water flows away from the high point, so that they don't sit in water all the time, which is not really a known. Nobody really knows. I can't say nobody. Most people don't know how cranberries grow, but it's just a flat surface that they grow on, and they're dry for, other than 4 different times out of the year, they're in complete dry conditions.
Now, did you grow up in town, or did you grow up in a semi-rural setting?
Oh yeah, it was 7 miles from town, and town is only 2 miles long. No stoplights, no major stores. You had one grocery store, 4 gas stations, and about 12 bars. So it was very small. Yeah.
So what kind of industry besides cranberry supported that?
Oh, this town is actually, my dad used to call it a sleeping giant, because there's 4 or 5 different multi-million-dollar companies that are located in this town. IAP, which is an air products company. They make huge fans, send them all over the world. And there's the corrugated cardboard facility used to be called Mark Whip. That was global. Then there was a Phillips Plastics company that was started out of a garage and expanded to they're definitely global in multi-million dollar. Probably at this point in time it would be $1 billion, I'm sure. So there was those are the kind of 4 big ones, but there are also others that were multi-million dollar companies that were here. So because and it employed a lot of the town. Hardwood companies, they made paper, just many different types of industry that was here located in Phillips. But their biggest was probably the tourism. Is probably the biggest. Over summertime would have been, fishing, wintertime hunting, snowmobiling in the winter. They make a lot of money in this area off of that. But the town never got any bigger than 1,500 people. I remember the sign saying 1,500 people, and I just went past the sign the other day, and it's still 1,503. So I guess a lot of people are moving out and moving in at the same time. But
that's what it says. The census of 2010 was 1,478 people. So,
oh, really? Yeah. The sign says 15 now, unless I misread it, but I don't think I would get that many numbers off.
Yeah, it's rounded.
Right. So small town. I got kind of got a start in the endurance world. Not until I would say the age of 24, somewhere in there. My brother was actually the first of our family of 7 children, and I was second in line. And I had a brother that was running cross-country track and doing really well. He had a scholarship to the University of Wisconsin for running. So he went from Division II high school to a Division I college, and wasn't as successful there, but definitely had some wheels. He won the state championship in his senior year. I also had a sister running in that was underneath him. That was the next one in line. She was also a track star. She went to the University of Wisconsin as well. I don't know if she got a scholarship or not. She may have. Now that I'm saying this, I'll have to ask her. But she actually went on to she's now a coach for St. Mary's University in Texas. So in Dallas, Texas.
Oh,
so
cool.
Division I college team. And she's
been in track?
Cross country and track. Yeah. She went from being an assistant coach at New Mexico State to she was assistant coach there. Then she went to head coach at Northwestern University, and Northwestern University was St. Mary's actually sought her out, so she's now there. So that's just a little bit of background with a couple of brothers and sisters.
You grew up in a pretty athletic, competitive environment.
Well, we were competitive. We weren't always competitive in athletics, but yeah, our family was definitely had a competitive gene. But like I said, I got my start in doing activities because I saw his success in cross country. So in the wintertime, I actually started snowshoeing. So I kind of got my start there, and then I moved on to mountain biking.
You're doing competitive snowshoe racing?
Yeah, competitive snowshoe racing.
Man, that's an aerobic. That's a lung buster.
Totally.
Oh, man.
And I did not know how to race. I would go from the gun and go as hard as I could till I died. And I continued that. I continued that type of racing all the way through my mountain biking section of life, which was between 24 and 30. About 6 years I did it, and I got up to the expert ranks. And I don't know if I ever finished the year off other than I can't remember what placement I was. I never really won one of those, but I was always competitive in them. But I think it's because I think I was only competitive. I could have been better if I would have treated it like I treat my ultras, which was pace yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
I would always go out hard because mountain biking is whoever can get to the single track first is the person that's going to not be held up by everybody. So it was always a sprint for the single track. And then you just maintain that. And mountain biking is a sport where you have to, you're going full bore the entire time, because if you're on the flat, you don't want to lose momentum. And when you're on a hill, you have to go fast. Otherwise you're going to go backward. And so the only rest breaks you get is on a downhill, not even so much that, because everybody's trying to catch you. So it was they were about 2 hour races. But it was during that time that I got that competitive spirit and started down the road of being super healthy. And you asked for it. You said, how'd you get your start? During that time, I got involved in a TV show. It was called Global Extremes. And it was, the intent of it was to take a group of 50 people and whittle it down to 5 people to climb Mount Everest. And it was taking us through different activities. So we would do, the first activity was all kinds of adventure racing in Moab, which took it down to 24 people. It was a 3-day event. Then the next event was like a month later in Aspen, Colorado, and we had to do a bunch of snow orienteering and climbing. Ice. We didn't do any ice climbing there, but how to rappel, how to slide down a mountain, all kinds of skills for outdoors like that. And then they whittled it down from 24 people to 12 there. And I was actually one of the 12 that got picked to go on to a 3-month journey around the world. We went to South Africa for 3 weeks. Then we went to Costa Rica for 3 weeks. And then the final place was Iceland for 3 weeks. And what they were trying to do was see how everybody reacted to these different types of extremes in activities, because they wanted to find 5 individuals that would be able to climb Mount Everest and be successful at it. I got cut at the last spot after Iceland by my teammates. We weren't supposed to vote each other off, so it was kind of like a survivor type deal. But when I was in Costa Rica, which was the second location, we had to do some surfing, and I caught a wave on my first time out, and I was like, oh, this is great. It was so much fun. And a couple of the other people that were on the TV show, they're like, yeah, you look like a California boy. You need to go to California. And I actually had the opportunity. One of the ladies had a house, and she said, I got a 3-bedroom house, and you could live there for as long as you want till you find a job. Which I know what everybody's probably thinking, or what it sounds like, but she had a boyfriend, and I was friends with him, eventually became friends with him, but so it wasn't like what you might think. So moved to California and have been there ever since. And I quit mountain bike racing.
It was the TV show that brought you to California.
It was let's go full circle. It was the TV show that got me to experience all these things that I hadn't done before. And California was a great place to do almost all of those, because you have the surf, the mountain bike areas, the trails, you have winter, you have pretty much everything in California that you can, it's full of adventure. So I ended up not competing in mountain biking anymore, just because I know my style, and I don't really look after, I don't have a fear bone. I'll just go for it. And the trails are so rocky and technical in California compared to what I was used to, that I figured, you know what, I'm going to end up injuring myself. So I switched into road cycling instead. And I did a bunch of road cycling races, a couple endurance road cycling races that were multi-day. Was doing great in those, and started developing a love for the trails while I was road racing also, because that's where I would train, is on trails. So I started doing a couple trail races, half marathon distance, 10K distance.
What time frame in terms of year was this?
Oh, good question. So I moved to California in 2003. I think the trail running started almost immediately since when I moved there. I never really competed in trail races until maybe 2005, 2006. in the meantime, thinking I was only riding the road bike and training for things because I was a snowshoe racer, right? I didn't really put that into the aspect of it. I would travel from Wisconsin to Colorado to do these big snowshoe races. By big, I mean,
you must have gotten your ass kicked then going from Wisconsin altitude to Colorado.
well, I kicked my own ass because I didn't
Yeah,
really
yeah, I
realize
know.
that
You're
my
loading with,
elevation, the elevation
yeah.
difference was there. But when I got done with the race, I was messed up, like
Oh, God,
headache,
you must
and
have cooked your lungs. Oh, God.
I was messed up after every race.
I can only imagine.
My entire body was just yeah. It was not a good scenario to go from no elevation
Yeah,
to
you
elevation.
would have been better off being a snowshoe trainer in Colorado and going to Wisconsin to race.
Right, exactly. But yeah, that was my focus for probably 2003 to 2007. I was doing all my activities to be a really good snowshoe racer, because there was a talk at one point in time that snowshoeing was going to be coming into the Olympics. So that was the talk, and I was like, I want to do snowshoe racing in the Olympics. I don't know if it is yet or not, but the distances were 10K.
I think pickleball surpassed snowshoe.
Yeah, curling. Not
Yeah.
to say anything bad about curling, I actually watch it.
Yeah, you're from Wisconsin.
Yeah, but let's see, where was I going with that? Yeah, snowshoe racing was my main
the
focus,
trail running to train for your
and the road racing, road riding,
snowshoe racing.
snowshoeing. Yeah.
Okay, where did
That's
the snowshoeing get derailed?
about 2007. I was part of the U.S. national team in 2006, I think. And I traveled I went to Italy twice for a big race there. It wasn't anything involved with like world known, but there was a couple. It's the biggest races that I had seen, 3,000 people in one race, but it was short. Like,
did the Slovenians compete?
oh, there was mostly Italians because that's where it was. But
Slovenia is right next door, and their cross country skiers were like dominators for a little country.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't look at the three individuals that finished ahead of me. I didn't look at what they. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I wasn't third, but I didn't really notice what their nationalities were. I think it was mostly just because it was a local area. I think it was mostly Italian.
Okay.
But at any rate, moving forward to my trail days, I would start doing the trail running, trail racing. And it was mainly short stuff, like 5Ks. There was a series that was called the Devil Dog series, and there were 5K races. And I would go to the race, and they were over in whatever 5K. I can't even remember what I was doing them in, 20 minutes or something. So, I started to get the bug to do longer. So I would do a couple half marathons here and there, and it was at one of the half marathon.
Half marathon trail races.
Half marathon trail races. I actually did 30K. It was Nancy Shura's Bulldog races, and it was there was a 50K race there also. And I was like, who the heck is going to do a 50K? I was like, you'd have to do 2 loops of this race. It's like, there's no way I would ever do one. She actually came up to me after one of the races that I did. That was her 30K. And she's like, so next year, are you going to do the 50K? And I was like, absolutely not. I couldn't even dream of going around that loop one more time. So that happened one year. And then the next year I did I think she switched it to a 25K then.
Yep.
So it was, the first year was a 30K. The second year was a 25K. And that's where I met Kira. She was helping somebody, or she was putting medals on the finish line people. I had finished the race, and she was talking with a couple of the guys that I was friends with. And I met her there and sort of stalked her on Facebook, because that's about the time Facebook was. And this is now 2000, from 2007 to that was 2007 that I was competing in snowshoeing. So 2007 to 2010, in that 3-year period, I didn't do a whole lot of like concentrating on racing. I bought a house, fixing up the house, and I was into yoga, doing a bunch of yoga. So 2010 is when I met her. I didn't actually like reach out to her till 2011, but I started seeing her in 2011, and she had owned Leona Divide, or she had just started doing the trail race Leona Divide, and I got the bug. I had actually looked at her 50K trail race, and I said, "Hey, do you know of a good 50K trail race to do?" And she's like, "How about mine?"
So
Okay.
Nancy, you're never going to run a 50K with Nancy, but you meet Kira, and all of a sudden, I don't know
Yeah.
which one was what. I think your big brain was not stopped thinking. A different brain had took over here.
Well, I actually, when I was stalking her, I saw that, I think Ultra Sign Up was around at that time. If it wasn't, it was that other Athlinks, I think was what it was. I saw that she had done something like 6 or 8 50Ks in 1 year. And I was like, how can anybody do that many 30-mile plus races in 1 year? I had done up to that point maybe 3 marathons. I did do a couple marathons also in that time period. I won't get into what surrounded those, but yeah, I mean, I was like 30-mile race. I said 1 a year would be enough. So after meeting her, we went maybe our second, third time dating or something like that. She took me out for a 25-mile run just for fun. And I'm like, wait, we're going to go for a 25-mile run for fun? I was like, all right, I'm all in. Let's do this.
See what women will make you do?
Yeah. About 5 miles from the end, she was struggling a little, and I was like, oh, I'm fine. She's like, you're a born ultra runner. And I was like, oh, well, thank you for saying that, but I've never done one. So, but yeah, 2011, I think started seeing her in February. My first 50K was in March, something like March 19th. No, it was actually Oriflame. It was in the mountains that they run the San Diego 100 course on.
Okay.
So that was my first one. 1 month later, I did another one. Another month later, I did another one. It just progressed. I was hooked. I ended up doing 8 or 9 different 50Ks in 2011, and 150 mile to finish the year off. I did my first 50 mile in the same year, which I won. So
Okay.
all of my.
Was that Leona Divide?
I didn't run Leona Divide. March,
April.
You probably
helped Kira do it.
No, I don't think I did. I think I was in Wisconsin for her Leona Divide, but I'd have to look back. I don't really remember.
I don't want to put you in the doghouse here.
Yeah. I don't really remember if I helped her at Leona Divide or not, but that year, right. We can just say that year and that one race.
Yeah.
But she was right about I might have the knack for ultras, because the lowest place that I had finished that year in the 50Ks was second, and I think I won 4 of the 8 races, something like that, and won the 50-mile race. So I guess I had the knack for figuring out how to run those, which she was very helpful in that, to state just go out there and have fun and run easy.
Let's give a shout out to Kira here and Kira Hedinger Races, because this is her passion, this is her baby. You guys don't have children, so
yeah,
you have
I have a stepson.
You have a brood of children, because she has a whole host of races.
Yeah, those are her children now.
Those are her babies.
Yeah.
And what I really am liking about what I'm seeing with what Kira's doing is a big part of it is to get people out, get them out there in the nature, get them healthy, doing stuff. It's not just about a race and making money. And
she's not raking it in with the races. I mean, she obviously does. She does okay, but there's so many expenses involved in them. It's really her passion to get people out there. That's why she does it.
Exactly. No, I see that. Yeah. Because she's not just doing Leona Divide, these big ultra that appeal to the ultra community. She's doing stuff that's bringing people into the sport. 5K, 10K, half marathon, trail races, which are in areas people can access and accessible. And I really want to. I want her to know that and you to know that I've been paying attention. And it's like, I remember she had that health fair, and I hope we can organize something like that again, around races, because people need to get, you know, like what we're going to be talking about or what we are talking about is so critical to, you know, making this sustainable, right?
Correct. But at the same time, she's also has to look out for a lot of the stuff that she does ends up not making money. She ends up
Oh,
paying out for a lot. Not that I have to tell that to you, but it's just, it has to be said that it's just a passion that she has, because there's a lot of the events that she has put on that she
loses
has
money.
paid for. Yeah.
Right. No, I think that it's important. I'll state this, like the ultra endurance sports out there would not exist for volunteers and
Oh,
people like Kira were putting it on, because you could not pay for that and make it work. It would just,
yeah.
and then the other thing is when I first got into running in the early 2000s as a consistent thing, I was a member of a local club, and I somehow got roped into becoming the race director for a local 5-10K race that our club put on as a fundraiser on Labor Day. And I did it for like 3 years and was able to bring the race back to profitability. Profitability meaning we made money. We didn't, you know, I didn't charge for
You
my
rake
time.
it in.
Right. But we were able to net some money,
Go
which we
positive.
put into the club, put into a scholarship fund for the local high school. But that experience, and then working with Greg Soderlund, the former RD for Western States, as sort of his black ops guy, I got these insights into what it takes to be a race director. And you couldn't pay me enough money. If somebody said, Peter, here's $1 million to direct Western States, I'd say you're crazy. Because I mean, people don't realize just what a pain in the butt it is working with agencies, insurance, all the requirements, and then you have all these athletes who don't realize what you're dealing with, and they got these petty little things they're bringing to you all the time, and you don't want to tell them, you know, like if this
You
was
don't
one
want to
of your,
be harsh to them.
right.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like on the construction site where somebody who they never come up to you and say, oh well, you don't have enough water on this job for us in the cooler. You don't have any ice in the water cooler. You know, you just say, get the, you know what, up back on your machine and get to work.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No, you gotta be nice. Yeah. But yeah, there's the other thing too these days is ultra running has become kind of a niche sport, and people are super interested in it. And there's a lot of newbies that don't even know that they're supposed to carry water bottles with them or put a pack on. There's so many people we've had come up, and the girls that do the check-in said there was probably half a dozen people that said, where do I put this? It's their bib. What do I do with this? And like, well, take the pins and you put the pin, you put it on something that you're not going to take off. And we have all kinds of people coming across the line with their bib all packed into their backpack. It's like they don't really understand how anything works, and they're not taking water bottles out on the course. And it's actually very challenging for her to have to maneuver and adjust to the newbies that are actually out on the course, and you don't know that they're newbies, and they're having trouble with stuff, or they're not making cutoffs. And Kira is one of the few race directors that actually does something that's kind of nice for the runner, is she offers the chance to drop down in distance so that you can still get a finish. So she's nice about that, instead of not getting it.
Dude, now that we're doing this, we'll move on here, but
Yeah, okay.
I need to interview Kira.
Yes,
I need to do a podcast with Kira. I think, okay, Kira, big shout out to you. So the
journey back. Okay, so
the journey back is we all know it's a hookup with Kira that got you into ultra running. That's the long and short of it, right?
That's the long and short of it. I guess I could have just started with that. Told you, you're going to be sorry.
No, Kira's going to be sorry. She's probably like, oh, God. When she watches this, it's going to be.
I won't let her watch it. Anyway, so I don't know how far you want to continue, but second year, I told myself in my second year of ultras, I'm going to just do 100Ks this year. And my second 100K that I did was Waldo, and I actually got a ticket from that race into Western States because of the.
What was that, 2012 or?
It was 2012. Yeah, 2012.
Okay, so
I raced.
You got a golden ticket into.
I got a golden ticket. Yep. came in right after Timmy Olsen. Wait, did Timmy win? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
But
that
yeah.
was the year. That was the year I was sponsoring him, and he won everything.
Yeah, I think he ended up winning that. That was the year that he won states, and then
Set a course record. Yep.
So with the entrant, the ticket to get into Western States, obviously I'd never done a 100-miler, and I still had. I'm going to give a shout out again to Kira and Scotty Mills and Tom Nielsen. Most people probably know who Scotty Mills is.
Tom Nielsen. We need to shout out to Tom and Pam. They are top-notch people, but Tom is such a low-key reserve.
But such a badass runner.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy.
So
I'm really glad you're doing this because you're shouting out to Akira and Scotty and Tom, because it's like I said, I was having this conversation with Bree Lambert yesterday, and we were talking about this, and it's really important to recognize who's helped you on your way, because no person's successful on their own.
No, and you have to figure it all out. It takes years of experience to figure all this out. I had the best in the business
who'd already had those experiences,
who already had all those, and they said, no, when this happens, do this. I think I still have the email that was Scotty Mills, his top 30 things to make sure you do at Western States. Yeah. And because of that, I went into the race just having a nice day out there, enjoying the surroundings. That was my first 100-mile race. Yeah. Had no idea what I was doing.
And you finished top 10, right?
I did. Just to segue into that, I ended up running from mile, I'm going to want to say something, mile like 15 to 18, mile 15 to 18, or in the 15 to 18 range with none other than Carl Meltzer. We were just I was on his heels and he was on my heels. But
you guys were running basically, you ran up to Elephant, you started running together past Lions Ridge down to about Duncan.
Yes.
Duncan Aid Station.
Duncan is where
Yeah,
Duncan Canyon, climbing up Duncan Canyon is where he and I first had words. And he was actually coaching Kira at the time, or he had coached her for a couple months, and I had talked to him a little bit about that while we're out there running. And then, so we ran from that mile all the way to when I finally passed him for the final time, because we swapped places quite a bit. Final time climbing up to Green Gate. So that's mile 78
to 80.
Yeah, 78. I got in the river, got soaked in the river, and I was already in 9th place at the river, fighting with Paul Terranova.
That was a fairly hot year, 2013.
I think they're calling it, and I might be wrong, don't quote me on it, but from what I understand, it was the second hottest year on record.
Yeah. I remember I was at Dusty Corner, and there was carnage there.
That's what I was about to say. There was so much carnage. I'm passing guys like Hal Kerner and Jorge Maravilla, and I'm like, what's going on? Mark Levison was pacing me, and he's like, we got another one. He's like, I didn't know what place I was even in. I know Carl had told me early on that we're in like 20, 21. We're in like 20 to 22nd place. He's like, perfect. We're sitting perfect. I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, as we're catching people after running down to the river.
Oh yeah, that's where you really. I remember when I ran in 2006. That was the really hot year. I remember I got to Forest Hill and I was like 25 minutes behind the 24-hour cutoff. And I remember Ling Ru saying to me, "You can be okay with a bronze buckle." I said, "Let's just do it." And my friend Bruce was pacing me, and he got me going. And we were just coming up on people. And we're trying to get them to run with us. Say, come on, hang on.
The key is just get a clip going. You don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to pound it. Just stay.
But as I went down the river, there was like carnage. There was people like stumbling around, falling over on the trail. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't finish in the top 10, but that was my first race. And like, I got a silver buckle. I was like one of those 43 people that got a silver buckle that year, and I only got passed by Eric Doobie climbing up to Roby Point. I passed people, and then from Green Gate on, I was alone. I mean, it was just it was just, but the going down to the river, it was just like, I must have passed 20 or 30 people
Yeah, it's crazy how much carnage happens at that
on
race.
a hot year,
Yeah, on a hot year, because I did
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the
exactly.
thing, like, there's been a lot of people that like to want to trash Western States because it was the first, and it's still a great race. It doesn't, I think it's just a great, but there's been a lot of, smack talking about Western States, right?
Yeah, well, you won't get me in on that, on the smack
I know
talk, because
you won't.
my life was Western States for the next 6 years. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I finished top 10. I was seventh. I actually got seventh the first year I did it. Nobody knew who I was. And there's still people that don't know who I am, which is fine. But yeah, seventh place the first year, went into it. I was 10th place the next year, and I ran an hour and 10 minutes faster the next year.
Yeah.
But I was 10th. And then the next year I ended up dropping the next year, because I was like, oh, I'm 10th. I kind of got this, like, I'm going to go and I'm going to set the new course record for 40 plus.
Yeah.
And that was in the back of my mind. And I also had somebody had a bug in my ear that you don't need to take salt. You have enough salt on you inside your body.
Oh God, that was when that research came out that
Yeah.
pulled all the S caps off the table. Don't even get me started on that.
Yeah. So this idiot didn't listen to what I had done the 2 years before, and I didn't take much salt. And I came into the first spot you can see crew, which is Robinson, or first spot that I had crew, Robinson Flat, on my third year doing it. And I just told Kira, I was like, I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty. So I was dehydrated, and I ended up,
But you couldn't process the water. You had no electrolytes.
right. And I ended up dropping at Green Gate. I made it. I wanted to drop at Michigan Bluff because I was just done. That's the year that I kind of hiked in with Dylan Bowman. He was done also, up to Michigan Bluff. And I ended up continuing on all the way to Green Gate. So another 20 miles of peeing blood. I mean, we all know that it's not 100% blood, but there's blood in your urine if you go to that point where you're so dehydrated. So yeah, puking, peeing blood. And I just said, I'm done.
Bloated because you're retaining water, but no electrolytes.
Yeah. So it was a bad year. So
I remember that research. One thing about Western States, just so the audience has some context, like where I was going with the smack talking about it, because there's people that like say, oh yeah, it's Western States, it's not as hard.
Well, Carl Meltzer said that. Carl Meltzer said it himself. He's like, it's a track meet.
Right, but here's the deal that none of these guys who like to poo-poo Western States won't want to admit. There's two things that make Western States as tough a race as any other. It's just a different variable. One is the heat. Like a lot of the races that are technically harder, more elevation gain, you don't have the potential for heat like Western States, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And two, and this is a more nuanced one, is that Western States, for an elite runner, Western States, you literally can run every step of that course, right? You're not gonna run every step of Wasatch, Hard Rock. You're gonna be power hiking at some point.
Even the two climbs, the two climbs out of the canyon.
Yeah.
On fresh legs, you would definitely run it.
Well, and some of the top runners have run up those.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because the difference between my pace going up it when I'm hiking, and like I would just compare it to Timmy Olson's pace. He was doing 12-minute miles going up it. I was doing 15 to 18-minute miles going up it, and I was hiking, running, hike, run, hike, run, hike, run. But I remember Paul Terranova telling me, "Yep, if you're going to finish in top 10, you have to run everything to get to Michigan Bluff, which is the second climb out of the canyons."
Right.
And it's all runnable.
It's
even
not so steep.
climbs.
And so that's what, to me, that's what gets people, is the fact that it can get hot and you can run every step. And people, as the year I ran it, as Brian Morrison showed us, you can literally run yourself into the ground, because that was the year he collapsed on the track.
Yep.
And so it's tough, but in a different vein from some of these other places. I mean, the other race that really interests me, because I've done sections of it multiple times of the whole course, but never run it. But I would, if I could ever run another 100, had the time and space to train for it, would be Angeles Crest. You don't see the elites go run that one either, because that course is hot and a lot of it's runnable. It's runnable. It's runnable. It's another like Western States.
Right.
And it's like the elite runners don't do well in the heat.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
So it's kind of an interesting thing. So you had your Western States years, and hopefully you'll get back at some point.
I hope to, because now I'm in the 50s, and I think I could still hit the time. I think I can. We don't know unless I did it. Try it. But I think I could hit that time.
I think both you and Jeff have that capability. So, hopefully you'll get another one. But let's kind of fast forward to the end of 2015 and the beginning of 2016, because that was, when did you start using Vespa? Was it before?
Let's see.
It was 2015 that Jeff contacted me.
If Jeff contacted you in 2015, he must have run hurt in 2016.
Yes, that's when you were crewing him.
2016, he and I are good friends. We were friends for years before the hurt race in Hawaii. And Kira was actually in that race as well. So we were all
you were crewing for both Kira and Jeff.
Well, it didn't start out that way. Kira had a tough go, and she ended up not being able to finish hurt that year. The year before she had finished, but she wasn't satisfied with the finish, so she tried it again. She's like, "What am I doing this again?" Anyway, Jeff was at that race, and when I walked into the airport and saw what he looked like from what I knew him as and to what he looked like when he was at the airport, because we rode together to the condo we were staying at, I was like, "Who are you?" The transformation was unreal. Not that Jeff was ever like huge, but he was just leaned out to the point where it was like, wow, what I was like, what happened to you? And he's like, oh dude, you got to get on this. He's like, OFM diet. He went through it, and we talked. That's all we talked about for the first 2 days before the hurt race. And during the race, after Kira had dropped, I just switched into the mode while I was crewing. So now I'm going to crew Jeff. And it was funny. I remember him coming into, I think it was his lap 3 or 4 of 5. I think it was lap 3.
45. I think in his blog.
Lap 3. Yeah. So lap 3, he leaves the aid station, and he turns around as he's leaving, and he's like, he just goes, "It's working." He's like, "It's working." And it was the fact he was taking Vespa, and it was the fact that he wasn't eating a bunch of he had taken hardly any food with him. So he was on minimal carbohydrates, just enough, I guess, just enough. But he was popping Vespa, and he was.
And a lot of salt.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But he just said it's working, and he won the race. And it was funny. We all went to the awards ceremony, and we all went together. It was Gary Robbins, it was Yassine Daboon, it was Jeff, it was myself, it was Kira. We were all walking from the condo where that crew was staying, and walked to the awards ceremony. And Jeff's like, "The crazy thing is I'm not even sore." He's like, "Look it," and he started doing lunges 2 days after the race. It wasn't even 2 days after. Yeah, Monday. Yeah, 2 days after the race, he's doing lunges, showing everybody how he can't. He's like not even sore, that he can do lunges walking to the ceremony. And it was mainly Jeff's influence and seeing that process that got me into going to. We actually went to an extreme the way Jeff did it, because I wanted to duplicate what he had done. So he did a sugar fast, is what he did, a 5-day sugar detox, sugar fast, sugar detox, whatever you want to call it.
The way I like to describe it for the audience in a way to understand is because nutrition diet is too simplified, because they don't include digestion, right? Digestion is a big part of diet, and it's never talked about. So the way we do it with OFM is you have protein sources you see as food. So not whey protein shakes, all these fake foods, right? Like Ensure or whey protein shakes, real food like whole eggs, whole cuts of meat, fresh seafood, fresh. Okay. And then you can, what you want to keep out of your diet during a sugar fast is what I call concentrated carbohydrates. So, fruits and tubers and things like that that would have a lot of starch, grains that would have a lot of starch, or sugars. So non-starchy vegetables, you can have those ad libitum. And this is something that people need to understand, because non-starchy vegetables that you eat, those actually, the carbs that are in them are locked in a carbon. A carb is locked in a fiber, water, mineral matrix. So they transit into your colon, and they actually get converted mostly into fatty acids. So they don't impact your blood sugar. So it's concentrated carbs, things that are concentrated, whether it's fruit, tubers like potatoes or sweet potatoes, and then your grains, and then of course all your sugar like sodas, candies, pastries.
Right.
What I call the obvious suspects.
So that's the point I was trying to get across, is I did this sugar fast. So we ate vegetables, we ate protein, but no other simple carbohydrates, no fruit. And I was shocked about that one. We can't have any fruit. But what I was trying to do is get the body to not want this sugar. And I have to say, day 4, I think it was, I hated everything. I was like, the TV would come on. I hated every TV station we were watching. Anything that I did, I was angry at what I was doing. But then the next day or so, a switch flipped, and I felt great after that. And I can remember like walking through the grocery store and seeing like cookies or cakes in one of those cases. I didn't even want it. I used to like to eat. I had a sweet tooth. I liked candy. I didn't buy it a lot.
You're a construction worker. You start the day off with a coffee, a cigarette, and a donut or a pastry.
So
I remember
bagels were
days.
big. Yeah, bagels were big in the morning. So yeah, a lot of carbohydrates that I used to like, that I desired, I no longer wanted. I didn't even care to have them. Ice cream, didn't even care to, didn't even look twice at it.
And looking at your body type, you're definitely an ectomorph. You definitely.
What did you just call me?
Ectomorph means thin. I mean, you're probably a Neanderthal, somewhat a Neanderthal like me. I'm definitely a Neanderthal. Anyway, it's a little easier to, once you get that adaptation, because it's really like, I just want meat. I might have some vegetables, but steak and egg, and that's when people ask me like, what do I do about protein? They're thinking I'm recommending some branched chain amino acid elixir of some sort. And I'm like, no, steak and eggs and a couple liver capsules.
Yeah.
That's form of protein. People ask me about, what's that? Creatine monohydrate supplementation, creatine supplements. People need to quit listening to all this marketing. Because if you go look at how much creatine is in like steak and eggs and meat, it's like there's plenty of creatine there.
Right. Nice.
You don't need to supplement, because millions of years of evolution actually got it right.
Anyway, so right. My movement into and trying Vespa started right after meeting with Jeff, and seeing his huge transformation in body type and his ability to finish the 100-miler and still be able to do stuff a couple days later. So I was all in on the diet and the type and the product, and I haven't looked back. I don't think I would change anything about the type of way I was eating. So I was pretty much, I didn't have that huge switch that you might have or you might see, because other than eating a few sweets here and there, I was really eating that way most of my life anyway. I was always concentrating on fats and
right. And you tweaked it with like the liver capsules, the vitamin D, magnesium, a few things like that. Yeah. Now I do want to ask you, while I got you on here, because if people still want to talk about, was it that summer of 2016 that you and Jeff did the Oahe?
Yeah, actually it was. Yep.
I
got married. Kira doesn't like this either. I got married the day after we were married. I got on a plane and flew. She always says that I took my honeymoon with Jeff, because I got on a plane, flew to his house, and we did the Owyhee Canyons. We tried to do the Owyhee Trail from start to finish in the Owyhee Canyon. So yeah, 2016, that was the year.
Now, people don't know that, and that's kind of, I was really interested in that because that's an epic place. I've flown over it and I've wondered about it. I've looked at maps and looked at pictures of people who've wrapped it or kayaked it. And it's just epic because when you're flying over, it's this huge plateau, and then there's this like
vertical.
It's like a compressed version of the Roadrunner and the Coyote. Instead of this big landscape of sandstone with these bluffs and stuff, there's just this big straight plateau that comes together, and then all of a sudden, a couple thousand feet down is this Hawaii.
Yeah, and less than a quarter of a mile across.
Yeah. I mean, from an airplane, it looks like you could jump across it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we did that year as part of a little piece that Jeff wanted to do about with Patagonia about they called it the last darkness, because there's hardly the amount of artificial light that is there is one of the few spots in the US that you have no artificial light because the towns are so far apart. So
right, and the canyon is so narrow that the artificial light doesn't filter into it.
Yeah, well, it's mainly up on the plateau also was part of it. So
okay, yeah. It is miles from everything.
Yeah, miles.
Like I said, I've flown over it, and you can't see roads. You know, there's little dirt roads that go out to it, but it's like it goes out, and then there's this cliff.
Yeah,
it's really cool, interesting, and you can only do sections. That must have been interesting logistically too.
Well, Jeff didn't know logistically it was, but we didn't know once we got down in there what it actually looked like. And it was, trees that were only that big around in the canyon, like
right.
Growing up. So there was not really a way around it or through it. You couldn't really see your way where you were going. So it took us probably 14 hours the first day, and I think we made it of the 70. What were we trying to do? 125 miles. I think we did 14 miles in 7, and it was like less than a mile an hour.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh no, we're not going to make it. But yeah, it was a lot of bushwhacking and route finding.
And you guys used a lot of Vespa on that one, but the adaptation must have helped really on that.
Yeah. I can't remember how many. So if you're asking how many, I'm gonna say 100.
So okay, so basically from 2016 to now, you've been doing the fat adaptation.
Yeah, right. Yep, absolutely. If we were to try to go with the difference that I feel between what I was running with the 100-miler and without Vespa and with Vespa, I can just say that I know I'm eating a lot less food. I know that in Leona Divide a couple weeks ago, in 64 miles, it took me 10 hours. I don't have the exact number, but it was somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 calories that I had during the race.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And that's not a lot when you consider when my watch, which I hardly ever wear a watch, but I do when I train. When my watch says in 5 miles, I just burned 3,000 calories. So 64 miles, I guess I should have burned, I don't know. I'm not going to try to guess the number, but I was definitely taking a lot less calories in with using Vespa than.
And what about your recovery? Do you notice your recovery is better?
Oh, yes. Usually it was like 4 or 5 days. Now it's 4 or 5 days and not able to run for probably a week. 4 or 5 days of super soreness and not able to run for over a week, to now it is 1, maybe 2 days of soreness, maybe 2. And I'm able to run within 4 days, like of distance, probably 15. I don't really try to run more than 15 miles because I don't really feel the need to try to put that many miles on right after a long distance event.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to have you on here is going back to your profession, you wear a lot of hats. So you've got a pretty demanding job / career. You got to commute probably an hour and a half every day, right?
So yeah, I'm up. I have to wake up in order to get to the job site, which is an hour. It's about 90 miles to work, and it's not the same job site. So I say about, because it's anywhere from 75 to 95 miles, depending on the job site that I'm on. So it's between an hour and 15. I'll just say an average of an hour and 15 in the morning. And I have to get there early enough to get all my paperwork ready, because I don't have any time during the day, once the day starts, to do paperwork. And there's a lot of paperwork these days with safety and timesheets from the day before or that day. So I give myself an hour in the morning before the crew gets there to get everything in my head set up and get all my safety paperwork done. So I'm getting there at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I have to leave at 4, earlier than 4, like 3:45. So I'm up in the morning at 3 o'clock. I get up, my alarm goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning every day. And I'd love to get up and go for a run at that time, because it's
a great time to run.
It's a great time to run when you wake up. I hear the benefits of it are great, but I don't know the physiological aspect of it or not, but I'd love to. But if I were to get up, I'd have to get up at 2:30 to do a half-hour run. So yeah, my job is demanding enough where I have zero time during the day to do any type of training. And I'm up at 3 in the morning. I leave the job site after work at 2:30, or I'm supposed to leave at 2:30. I usually don't get out of there till 3. Well, guess what? Traffic on the way home is now rush hour, and now I'm an extra half hour. So I'm an hour and a half in the morning to work, and 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours home. I don't get home till 4:30 or 5. So now I have to figure out what I'm gonna. Obviously, I'm figuring it out beforehand, but I have to figure out, with the workload that I had and how tired I am from the workday, what I'm gonna do for my run. Because I mean, there's a lot, mostly during the week when I'm working, I hardly run at all. I do mainly like stretch routine or some sort of strength training
So
routine.
you try to do something, but it tends to be like at what, an hour, 15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. If I get out for a run, I'm doing a maximum of 1 hour run. And then that's the 1 hour run with a little bit of stretching after. Now I'm at an hour and a half. Thankfully, Kira always has dinner ready, and I don't have to spend time, managing that aspect of it.
So in other words, if you go out for a run, you're quitting about the time you're starting to feel decent about your run.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a little bit to warm up. As a matter of fact, yeah, my runs on the weekends are, I just hit 8 miles. Now I finally feel like I'm loose, and now I can start to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's mainly I've turned my weekday runs into, not that I go to the weight room, but strength training, stretching, and interval. I'm going to start to do work into interval training workouts to maximize my time to do some speed work.
Let me know. Let's talk about that, and I'll help you with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, good.
So then and of course you want to spend at least 2 or 3 nights a week kind of hanging out with Kira.
Well, we do get to spend. I mean, most of the nights are, obviously, it's just after dinner, we'll just watch a little bit of TV and discuss stuff from the day. But yeah, it's probably a half hour to an hour maximum that we get to spend together. That's on the nights that I work out. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of nights where I don't do anything. I'm just too tired from work, and I'm just like, I can't do it. I get home, I'll lay down on the floor and take a nap, and by that time it's now 7 o'clock. So eat and go to sleep.
That's exactly what I used to do, is like get a shower and then just fall on the floor and soak up the air conditioning for an hour.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just park my truck and put the seat back in the driveway.
Yeah.
But so my weekends are the times that I actually get to run. Thankfully, we don't do a lot of weekend work, but it always seems like when I come up on a big race, 2-3 weeks 3 to 4 weeks before, we're working 10-hour days and overtime and stressful workload. It always seems that way. But yeah, my weekends are my time to get away into the mountains and do my longer runs, which are anywhere from 30 miles on a Saturday, and then a 20 to 25, maybe another 30-miler on Sunday.
So a lot of times you're able to do back to backs.
Yeah, I do a lot. That's only coming up on a big 100-mile race, though. Like,
Right.
I don't put that kind of stress on my body the entire season. I just focus mainly on that when I'm coming up on the tail end of a big block of workout for the 100-miler.
No, and on top of that, I think you said, you're doing stuff around the house, right? You're because you're handy.
Yeah, I still have the house
You
maintenance.
got the honeydews.
Yeah. A lot of those don't get done. She's like, I thought I asked. Like, yeah, you did. I feel bad. All right, I'll get on that. So
Yeah.
but she's good with it. She's like, I understand. She knows.
Gets it. And on top of that, like we said, Kira has this brood of races that she's looking after, and you're helping out with those too. Tell us what you're doing.
This is true also. So her race season starts around October now. She's got, I think, 9-10 races. So she'll start right around October, and she puts on. It's usually never shorter than a 50K. But her work week is managing the emails and setting up for what's coming up for the races. And then I usually, if they're close to the house, I'll stay at home, but she's always gone for her races on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, setting up marking courses. And then I'll bring a lot of the products that she has to give out, like medals and shirts. I'll bring those up Saturday morning, if not Friday night, if it's close enough. But obviously I'm working, so Friday night I'll try to get the stuff in my car and up to the race site, which the race that she directs that's the furthest away would be Ray Miller up in the Santa Monica Mountains, which at the time that I would be leaving would be probably 3-hour drive. When in the morning, if I wake up, I usually wake up in the mornings on Saturday morning to get the stuff that's needed there, which is the start line shirts that she gives away. And check-in is at 4, so I'll have to get up at 2 in the morning. Not have to. I don't have to do any of it. I choose to because I want to help her. And so I'll have to get up at 2 in the morning and do the drive, set up the start line, get all the stuff together. And then I get the opportunity, because she is the race director, to jump in any of the races that I want to. And I would say over half of them, especially the bigger ones, I usually jump in the race and then race. And then
or you can go out for your own run if it's a shorter race or something like that.
Yeah, but what usually happens is if I'm not racing, there's so many problems that come up that she has my help to go check course marking, or go get more ice for this aid station, or pick up a dropped runner, or grab drop bags and bring them back to the finish line, or go get more food for the finish line, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm also the social butterfly. That's what she says. I'm at the finish line, congratulating people and talking to them and getting their stories, because I love talking to ultra runners. I love talking to runners. I love talking to anyone.
Yeah, you're talking to me. But the point is that you've got a full life, and having yourself metabolically fit, not just being able to race fast, but metabolically fit, probably just really helps add to being able to make it all happen.
True. Yeah. My mom always says, where do you get your energy from? I don't know. Kira says it too. She's like, you're always going.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
And this is what this provides, Do you remember what it was like when you were like doing high carb? Or like you said, you never really did.
I never really did high carb, but I do remember when I would eat something sweet or sugary that it definitely produces a crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I've not progressed, but now I kind of do a lifestyle of the intermittent fasting. So anytime I do the intermittent fasting, I just feel great.
Oh, I know,
Feels
I know.
so
And
good.
the way we teach it at OFM is we don't, and you'll probably be able to relate to this totally, is like we don't tell people what kind of a fasting window and feeding window they need, because guess what? When you're fat adapted doing the OFM protocols, fasting just happens.
It does.
You just get
Yeah.
busy and all of a sudden 14, 16, 18 hours goes by.
Yeah. I never ever really feel hungry, and when I do, I'll eat something. So that's kind of the way it goes. And the intermittent fasting is so easy to do because I'm not really hungry.
Yeah, and
And
as long as you stay hydrated.
that is a key right there. The
Right.
thing, when I started doing that, the diet, I didn't realize, I didn't do my own research. I was a very poor candidate for somebody that's doing a diet because I did not research anything. I kind of pretty much just
Did what Jeff did.
kicked off of what Jeff was
Yeah.
telling me or saying, and I could tell him I was like, I'm struggling. This was when it first started. He's like, dude, you need to start taking some salt. Sounds like you're lax on a little bit of sodium in your system. So when I started doing that, yeah, the hydration end of it picked up, and definitely a change once I started drinking more water and taking more salt.
Well, like you said, but what did you said you used at Leona Divide because it turned hot on you?
I went through 21,000 milligrams, so 21 grams of salt, and a gram of salt is a quarter teaspoon. So I went through 5 teaspoons of salt during the 10 hours, which is quite high.
Yeah, I notice even for the day, if for me in the day, like in the afternoon, if I don't bolus with sodium, I just like want to fold,
Yeah.
you know. So that's an interesting thing. So any other commentary you have about, your lifestyle, how things are working for you, where you want to go, what's your plans this year? Tell us
Well,
about
okay, I can give you my plans for this year.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Plans for the year are,
You've already got a second at Leona Divide. That's a big race.
yeah, and just to segue into kind of where I've been the last year, I didn't really race at all last year. I had a fractured metatarsal, so I wasn't able to do any of the races. I was actually in Western States last year at age 50, really banking on the fact I could probably get this course record, and then I ended up having a fractured foot. I'm not 100% sure what day or what actually did it, but it happened. Let's just move on from there. And so I did the 100K 3 weeks ago. Now, kind of feeling like a newbie because I didn't know how my body was going to react. Newbie being, you know, you're apprehensive about whether or not you're packing enough food or what to take. So it's kind of like a starting over process. But now that I've got that one nailed down, I've got a 50K that I'm going to do next weekend, which is Kira's race, O'Neill Park 50K, and then I'm going to be in her 100 miler, the Samo 100 miler in June.
That's
9th.
That's going to be a tune-up race, right? That's
correct. That's a B race. I don't really see. It's a training run, exactly. And I'm going to try to simulate what I need for calories and what I would like to take as food for my big race of the year, which is Hard Rock. And can't remember if it's July 14th, 16th, somewhere around there. I think it's the 16th.
It's the middle of July.
Yeah, Hard Rock 100 is going to be my main focus this year until I get done with it. And then my focus after that jumps to, I'm in Moab 240 because I was supposed to do that one last year as well. And went and worked an aid station there to get my entry fee transferred to this year. So Moab 240 is also on the in the plans for this year.
That's November, early November.
That's October, middle of October,
okay,
or early October.
Early October. Okay, I'm trying to remember when all these races are. Okay.
Yeah, it's tough to keep track of all of them.
Yeah.
So that's
another A race because of the distance, right?
Yes, exactly.
Who do you got crewing for you?
As of right now, I don't have anybody set up for the crew on that one. There's a ton of people that want to come out and help for Hard Rock. I've got more than I need for Hard Rock, but I don't blame anyone. That's good. That's the new destination race. I feel everybody wants to go there.
Rock.
Yeah.
You know what? As beautiful as it is, it's like I spend a lot of my time running in the high Sierras, and I won't be able to get back there till late August, September this year with snow. But it's almost kind of like I like that, the fact that Colorado, those big Colorado races, the Utah races get all the press, because I go out in this backcountry and it's epically beautiful. And to a point, Howie Stern and I have had some conversations about this. It's the same thing. He lives in Silverton. He photographs hard rock, loves it. It's beautiful. But the high Sierras are just, the granite there is amazing. The redwoods, the sequoias are amazing. It's just epic stuff, but there's no races there. There's no real races. There's a few races on the east side, a few little races in the foothills on the west side, but in the backcountry, there's nothing.
You're not the first person that said that. I have a friend that always said that. He's like, I've been all over the world in the Sierras.
The Southern Sierras, you go from Sonora Pass south, and I remember one time I was up in Auburn talking to some people, and I was talking about how the running down in the Southern Sierras was better than up in the Northern Sierras on the Western. And I'm not trying to take away from you, right? And then Tim Tweetmeyer was there, and he said, yeah, it is better. I mean, everybody's like, well, no, it's better. Western States Trail, blah, blah, blah. And Tim says, no, it's better, because he spends a lot of time down.
Yeah, it's hard to access the Sierras also. So
this year the access is impossible. So
you shouldn't have said that, though. Now you're gonna have everybody coming to check it out. Just kidding.
Oh, okay, yeah. But the problem is
the
access, and then if you do have access, those access to get over the passes and stuff. You've been up there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It weans people out real quick.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I have to expound upon. We can finish off with just that's my race season this year. I don't have any real goals for trying to get into anything for next year yet. Just see how the 240 goes. I really do enjoy the super long distance, is what I'll call it. The 200 plus miles definitely has its own set of issues that you come up on during the race, mainly sleep deprivation.
It's
crazy.
Yeah. It's a completely different animal, and it's got to be managed way different than 100.
Way different. Yeah, it's not by two.
Yeah,
just because you're going from 100 to 200 doesn't mean it's 100 miles is this hard and 200 miles is that much harder. It's totally different. There's so many different ebbs and flows in that 200 miler that you come upon. That and I've only done one to know.
Which one did you do?
I did Bigfoot.
Oh, you've done Bigfoot. Okay.
Yeah, that one. I always put it as I was pacing myself, because I didn't take a pacer with me, so I was so out of it and not knowing where I was or what time it was or what was going on that I was mainly. I remember a couple points where I was physically out loud saying, "Don't drink all your water because you got to save some for Jesse. He's the one that's running. Don't eat all your food. Jesse needs some." And I'm like, wait, I am the one that needs it.
Yeah, it's funny because in 2017, I paced and crewed for a guy I was coaching, and he did the Triple Crown plus the Okinawa Survival Run, which is 250 miles around Okinawa, and all within a 4-month time span. And he actually got stronger as he went, because he was all in on OFM and
to back up to that, at the end of my 200 miler, I was okay. I'll just tell this little piece because I know we've been going on a while. So I'm at mile 190. I'm at mile 190, and I'm chasing down third place. And I come into the aid station, and my brother was there with Kira. And I said, "How long ago did Joe leave?" And they said 10 minutes ago. I said 10 minutes in 10 miles. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to catch him. There's no way I can do it. Because I was running as hard as I could. I was like, there's no way I can catch him. I was like, that would be faster than 1 minute per mile. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. And they're like, what are you talking about, 10 miles? You have 13 miles to go to the finish. I was like, wait, what, 13? I was like, I can do this. So I took off out of the aid station. So Kira was going to pace me to the finish so fast that she couldn't even catch up. She's like, you're doing sub 6 minute miles right now. It was a little bit of a downhill. So,
Yeah.
But sub 6 minute miles, that last 13 miles, my tracker wasn't really working, but I know it took me about 14 hours to do the 30K section in the race, like hours previous. This 30K I did in 6 hours.
Wow.
So the last 30K of the race I did in 6 hours when I was focused on trying to catch third place.
You caught him?
Oh yeah, I caught him. I did him by over an hour. So in 13 miles, I did him by over an hour.
Wow. And you got third place?
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So
I couldn't believe how strong I was at the end of 2 days, 3 days, almost 3 days of running.
That's the advantages of fat adaptation.
Yeah.
You know, you're not just burned up, and I bet you were popping Vespas like crazy.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say. For the 100 milers, I still, even though I'm taking less carbohydrates in them, I'm still sick of eating by the time I get to like mile 80. I'm like, I can't fathom putting something else in my mouth and swallowing it. I'm so sore from drinking fluids and eating stuff. And it's amazing. And this isn't just because the product, this is the way I would tell anybody is I'll have a Vespa and it like gets me through the last 20 miles. I'll feel an energy surge. I don't know if it's the placebo effect or what it is, but I'll pop a Vespa.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it just works.
Whatever it is, it's working.
Who cares if it's a placebo?
Yeah,
it works.
So I know the package says you can only have 8 a day, which we made a joke about when we were crewing for Jeff last year at Hard Rock, and one of the guys made a comment. He's like, he's already had 6 today. I don't think we should give him any more because you're only supposed to have 8 a day, and it's only 50 miles in. But yeah, anyway, the Vespa concentrate is like I will not leave home without it. Yeah, it's a product that's good.
People say, well, I'm not an elite athlete like Jesse or Jeff, but you're somebody who's got a lot going on and a real day job and a lot of responsibility, and it actually adds to it.
Yeah, in that aspect of it, a healthy lifestyle only helps you enjoy life more. So why wouldn't you want to do something that aids your body and giving you and letting you perform, just going out the door and getting, going out for a hike, or you don't have to be a racer, just going out, getting up for the day, or going to rake leaves.
Yeah.
Or like where I am, stacking firewood. Anybody could use this stuff.
Yep.
This lifestyle to better their life is all it matters, really. To get up and feel energetic and not tired and enjoying life that's what everybody strives for. So eat right and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Enjoy life. All right, man. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you for having me.